Welcome to Pause for the Truth, where you can sit back, relax, and hear an honest dialogue about health, wealth, legal, and social issues. The hosts are Dr. Rogers Kane, family practice physician, and Jocelyn Turner, health education consultant, with co hosts from the Northeast Florida Medical Society and its foundation. Stay tuned for the truth about matters affecting you and your family. We're here to tell you what's really going on and why.
Good evening, everyone. Miss Turner, glad to see you again.
It's good to be seen.
I know it is.
So we are here for another episode of Pause for the Truth. It's a beautiful, beautiful fall day here in Northeast Florida. So we are super excited to see all of our guests. I think, Dr. Kane, I think we're going to have a lively discussion tonight. What do you think?
I think so too. It might start with the weather and your description of it when you start talking about beautiful day.
I forgot about the rain.
Yeah, I think it did, but it's nice temperature. I'm happy with it. I don't mind having a little rain. My yard needed it. So,
well, we are delighted to have. We actually have some new guests on the podcast tonight. Always like when we have some fresh ideas. We like our repeat guests, but we also love to have new guests. Tonight we're talking about something interesting, and I was sharing with Dr. Kane before we get into discussion that when men go to barbershops, to be a fly on the wall to hear what they're talking about, right? And so we have this unique partnership with these individuals tonight, and they're going to talk about it, how barbershops have morphed into so much than just going to get your hair done. Sorry, Cedric, it's kind of hard for me to say that looking at you, right?
He got a beard.
Yeah, he got the beard.
I gotta let my beard hang. You know what I'm saying?
So
I wish I had that kind of hair on my head.
I know, right? But they are, many of them are health hubs, and that's what we're talking about tonight, how barbershops are really, and barbers in particular, are really getting into it. I remember back in the day when I was at the health department, and my old colleague worked with some barbers on a prostate cancer project. And when that project ended, those barbers at the time said, we hear all sorts of conversations going on in the center. I think in the barbershop, I think what I'd like to focus on now, this is the feedback that we got from the barbers at that time, is HIV/AIDS, because they were hearing the conversation that guys were having, and they felt that they were putting themselves at risk. So with unique partnerships with health professionals or paraprofessionals, these individuals now are stepping up to the plate and being a real force to reckon with, as they say, in their neighborhoods. And so we're excited to have a conversation. And
Ms. Turner, let me throw in the fact that there was intense discussions in the barbershop when it came, not just HIV/AIDS, because that's going way back before I was born, but it also is making reference to the COVID era. Because there was a whole lot of discussion in COVID.
Absolutely. And you're right. We did do a lot of work with Latrina, for example, connected me with several barbers, and we did some work. So we're excited to have them. And so I'm going to go ahead and let our guests introduce themselves, and then we will begin the discussion. And of course, I have to start ladies first. Latrina Dowdell, how are you doing this evening, Latrina?
I'm good. Thanks for asking. My name is Latrina Dowdell. I work as the executive director for the 32209 Experience. I am a mental health, a certified community health advocate, as well as a community health worker and a practitioner for the TBRI, Trust-Based Relational Intervention. And we work in the community barbershops, trying to reduce violence and crime.
And can you also mention your appointment through the mayor's office? The city of Jacksonville.
Yes, I am on our mayor Deegan's. Yes, African American Advisory Board, and I chair our Health and Public Safety Committee.
So Latrina is embedded in the community. So we're excited to talk to her tonight and hear what, her perspective of the work that she's been doing. Also joining her is Tyree Williams. Tyree and I go way back. I won't say too far back because he's so much younger than me, but we work together at the health department. Welcome, Tyree. How are you doing this evening?
I'm doing fantastic, Jocelyn. I don't know if I'm that young now. I got like a lot of gray in my beard now. I ain't have
ain't no gray. I wish I had.
man. That's because I diet. That's why. Nah, it's coming though. But thanks for having me, Jocelyn. It's always a pleasure to work with you to be able to discuss some different issues. So my name is Tyree Williams. I'm a registered and licensed dietitian, also a community health advocate, mental health advocate. I'm also trained in TBRI as well, trust-based relational intervention, which is a trauma-informed model to be able to discuss mental health from a standpoint of what happened to you in childhood and how that affects you as an adult later on. I also am a community programs facilitator for Operation New Hope. So working with individuals who are re-entering society after being incarcerated, really instilling a lot of those same principles around mental health and, how you actually look at what happened to you in order to change your life. So, and then also the work in the barbershop. So we've been, I think, rocking with the barbershops probably for about 3 years now. So we've been pretty much looking at that model as a way to be able to reach men. Excited to be here, excited to talk about this topic.
That really make me feel like I'm watching In Living Color again. All them Jamaican jobs that he got.
I know, right?
I know I was tired. I'm like, okay, wrap it up, Tyree. I mean, and last, of course, certainly not last, because I got to also acknowledge our technology guru. I'll come back to him in a second. I want to go ahead and bring in Cedric Turner, and no, we're not related. I mean, if we do our ancestry, we might be related in some capacity.
You never know. You never know.
You never know.
You don't meet Turners often, do you?
I don't.
No, you really don't. So that's why I said we might be kin, as they say. So welcome, Cedric. Tell our audience a little bit about yourself.
All right. I'm going to go ahead and write my resume down like Latrina and Tyree did. I'm Cedric Turner. I cut hair. And on Tuesday, I cut hair. Wednesday, I cut hair. Thursday, you might find me cutting hair. And definitely Friday and Saturday, I am cutting hair at Cut Lines and Trim, professional barbers and stylists on Moncrief Road.
All right.
No, seriously. My name is Cedric Turner. I'm here in the city of Jacksonville, Florida, the owner of Cuts, Lines, and Trims, professional barbers and stylists, active here in the community, 10 years now with Jews of the Future, Inc., nonprofit. And basically, being in the community, it really just opens your eyes to the truths of people that have secrets inside of them. You know what I'm saying? So being a barber, it's not just like you said, like coming to get a cut. It's all about really just understanding yourself, basically.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. Thank you and welcome. I'm going to get back to that, Cedric. I'm going to come back to you, but I have to bring in our technology wizard. You see Dr. Kane and I are the face of the podcast, but the podcast can't operate without our behind the scenes technology wizard called Tyrone Jackson. Welcome, Tyrone. How are you doing this evening?
I'm doing well, Ms. Johnson. Thank you for acknowledging me finally. It was great to hear all these things that these powerful people are doing, but I'm looking forward to the show.
Wonderful, wonderful. I want to start, Cedric. I want to come to you first, and then I'll go back to our other guests. And you kind of alluded to it, but can you briefly share how you became involved in doing community work? You mentioned a few minutes ago about a nonprofit, but tell us what inspired you? What made you get started in that?
It basically was my wife and daughter. They are the CEO the founders of Jewels of the Future Inc. Was founded 10 years ago and basically started out. We just in the heart of Moncrief and Avenue B. We saw a need for help. Like people are out here struggling, people constantly walking back and forth in front of the shop all day, catching buses, walking, begging, panhandling, all kind of stuff is what we see. So it's a need over here in this community for sure. So my wife and daughter started a nonprofit, Jewels of the Future Inc., which is a team mentoring group, but it's also a community active service group as well, nonprofit as well, and which has been displayed all over the city, been on the news 25 plus times, giving back to the community. But that was the inspiration. But as far as cutting hair, I just learned that. That's one of my skills.
That's fantastic. And I like how it's a family affair in terms of your wife and daughter also recognizing that, you all together can do something. You're seeing, like you say, you're seeing folks pass by and it's like, wait a minute, I gotta go outside of the walls of the barbershop, and there's some other things. So kudos to you and your family. That's pretty awesome. Now, Latrina, I want to get to you and ask you that same question. How did you become involved in community health advocacy and being a community health worker? What made you do this? All of us could have chosen a different profession or work. Why did you choose to do the work that you're doing? Latrina, you can go ahead. Can you hear me?
I'm losing.
We can hear
sorry.
you.
I'm trying to find myself. It was buffering for a minute.
Oh, okay.
Okay, good. You asking me made me take this as a major, I guess, a major concern in the community is what brought it to my attention. I deal with relationships as a woman. You deal with relationship with the men in the community, and I saw for myself changes that I had as far as my family dynamic and the things that I went through as I was growing. And also I looked at the fact that I was a part or what we would call an ACE through adverse childhood experiences. And as I started to do the work on my own, as far as for me, I found that it was a lot of things that men and women had gone through in our upbringing, and how those adverse experiences kind of started a will to go on what that we had for our lives. And sometimes we get stuck in experiences, and being stuck in those experiences causes us to have some types of regret in decision making that we've done. So I decided to go with something that was a little different, and let's just try to work with the head of the shop. They wanted to know what I thought I could do or tell a man by me being a woman entering into a space that this is the men's piece. They're going to get a haircut. So why am I, they're talking about mental health. And I remember asking a question of one of the barbers. I said, so what's the position in the home for the woman? And they said, you're supposed to be the cook, the teacher, the nurturer. I say, okay, you're right. So when you're having issues of the heart or issues of the mind, you want your brother to do it, or you want a woman to take care of that? And they said back to me, you're right. So I said, okay, the women has always been the nurturer and the one up. So they, through that community engagement, the protection.
All right. Well, thank you, Tyrone. We may have to get you to help Latrina because she's, as she said, she's buffering, and so the words are kind of breaking up. Tyree, I want to go.
Are you able to hear me? I'm sorry.
We can hear you, Latrina. Tyree, I want to go to you. I don't know who came first. Did Latrina bring you into this work of barbershops? And I know working at the health department, you may have had that experience in the past, but when you first heard about barbershops serving as kind of health hubs, what did you think? Did you think that was a good idea? Did you think that barbers would push back? What were your thoughts, Tyree, about engaging barbers to get involved in this work?
Nah, I would definitely say, Latrina was the one that had the idea of actually doing this type of work within a barbershop. So we were both trained in, as I mentioned earlier, TBRI, trust-based relational intervention, and just really understanding how, this type of information, that type of understanding of yourself, because it's really a caregiver training to be able to interact with children who've been through trauma, but a lot of us from the underserved community have been through trauma. So it was just the idea of hers to be able to bring this type of education, this type of knowledge to individuals who not only experience trauma, but experience the result of trauma, as adults. And then just once she told me about it, I'm like, a barbershop is definitely where, because men don't talk a lot, like especially about feelings and emotions. But a barbershop is definitely where, a man will open up and feel comfortable to be able to talk about, different issues, whether that's relationships, whether that's family, whatever it is, financial, whatever it is, that's a place where men open up and, discuss issues.
One thing I heard, and I don't know, Latrina, if it was a conversation you and I had, but is that sometimes in doing this work and transparency here, I work on a project where we are building resilience in families who've experienced stress and trauma. And Latrina and I have been working together, as well as Tyree with Latrina. And the one thing that we've identified, Cedric, is, and all of you, is that a lot of us in growing up, we had experiences. It was a way of life. We didn't know it had a name of trauma and adverse childhood experiences. And we were like, well, it's the same thing all of us were going through, right? So it just seemed like a way of life for us. Cedric, when they came to you and said, let's do this, what were you thinking? Like, wait a minute, these people coming here to get a haircut. We're not therapists in here. What were your thoughts?
Well, it actually weaved with everything that was already going on in my shop already. We just didn't have the professionals like Tyree and Latrina just guiding us through the conversations to get the best results we could. But we are already having those types of talks all the time. So I guess it was like God sent for them to come in and just, piggyback on everything that we was doing and give us a better way of seeing it, looking at it, understanding it, and just figuring out the triggers of what causes people to do the things that they do. It's just learning who you are, what triggers you, what trauma that you're running from, what have you dealt with, and those are things that we talk about in the barbershop. But everybody don't. It's certain people that they can feel your energy when they come in. And, a lot of people come in the shop. Initially to get a haircut, but they come in there for some advice. They come in there to feel better. It's an escape from some type of hell or prison that they're in, and it's just an experience that it's like you said. It's something that people just need. They need to be able to express themselves. They need to be able to vent. They need someone to understand. They need to be loved. They need to be heard. And they need to be understood. It's just something that every human needs and craves. I believe that when you decide to have the courage to express yourself is when you would get help. If you're keeping it bottled up, you're not opening yourself up to receive anything. You're just listening. But when you open up, you not only are you venting, but you allow yourself to get help.
So what makes the barbershop such a trusted space in the Black community in particular?
Well, it's a lot of testosterone going on inside of the shop. So, you got you got your lions, you got your bears, you got your tigers, So we gonna flex and see who the lions, tigers, and bears are. And the strongest ones gonna be the ones that's gonna have the courage to talk. And everybody else gonna get on up out of here and go about their business,
And we ain't talking just football teams either, right?
and football, don't even mention football. That's just normally sports is the way to get comfortable with people in the barbershop. Yeah. That's the easiest, quickest way to break the ice and to get people to start talking. And once y'all go to talking about sports, you slide your way into something else. Slide your way into politics next. Then you slide your way into all the drama that's going on the internet. Then you slide your way into, well, what you got going on? Boom. It's like 1, 2, 3,
Well,
Why do you think that?
you said a couple of things real quick, Ms. Turner. I'm sorry, but you said a couple of things. I remember when I was in medical school and I was doing a rotation in psychiatry, and you know, these mostly white folks, when they start talking about what's going on with with people and their behaviors and stuff like that, I went back to my days as a kid and a teenager, especially looking at and listening to what I used to hear in the barbershop. And I saw all kind of personalities. I was able to reflect back on what I heard in the barbershop. And truth be told, white folks thought I was a genius because I learned from the conversations in the barbershop as to personalities, mental awareness, sometimes mental illness, in terms of people in the barbershop. We knew who Crazy John was, and we knew what not to do with Crazy John, but we also knew who was one of the smartest guys in the barbershop. You knew who's the numbers runners, back in the days when they were running numbers and stuff like that.
That's
You
right.
learned all kinds of behavior in that barbershop because you had all kind of people in the barbershop
That's right.
expressing the ideology of the community. And it was a great learning place if people just learn, medical professionals, like, physicians that think they, whatever. If they learn how to go in and communicate with people in that kind of settings, they'd be excellent psychiatrists.
Facts.
Period.
So why do you think? And this could be for any of you, and including you, any of you on the panel, I should say. Why do you think men are more open to having tough conversations about health, stress, or life in a barbershop compared to at a clinic, for example?
Well, before we go there, I wanted to say one thing because I've heard a couple of things that was very interesting. One of the things I think that gets understated is that the way men exchange conversation is different. And I think Cedric said it, they can be themselves. The way a man expresses himself around other men doesn't have to be tear jerker, ear crying for another man to understand that he's hurting. You know what I'm saying? So it's how he's allowed to express himself that makes the
Correct.
difference.
There you go.
Right.
How you allowed to express yourself?
Yeah, I agree. I definitely agree with that. And I also think, for lack of better words, like the barbershop is like the spa for men. Like when we go get our haircut, like it's like a woman going to get her nails done. It's like we don't express that we kind of conceited and like to look good, but when we get our haircut, we look good. And then when we find a barber that we trust to do our tape up, because if they mess your tape up, you don't keep that
They
barber.
done.
Like, yeah. And when you have a
I mean,
barber, you don't cheat on your barber. So if you cheat on your barber gonna be like, see, you done went over there and they done messed your tape up. Like, why you did that? So it's like you also like build a relationship with that barber, and usually once you go to a barber, you stay with that same barber. So it's that trust space. I think it's also, that space of this is where I'm going for one. Even if I'm going through a rough week, I'm about to go get fresh and look good. And that's kind of like a man's self-care. So I think,
And then to the club.
yeah.
and just
Can
for the
either of
record,
you describe? Oh, go ahead, Cedric.
just for the record, every barber messes up somebody's tape up. And the only reason they come back is the barber that messes it up makes him feel like this was the only time he ever messed up anybody's tape up.
Yeah.
Can either of you describe a moment when you saw trust at work inside the barbershop? Like when did you see that this is working, right? What we're doing, these conversations that we're having, these guys are opening up. And Latrina, you actually shared with me, and I don't want to put somebody's business out, so I'm not going to. I'm just going to talk just generically.
Believe the amount of time.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah, she lagging.
Yeah.
You freezing on us, Latrina.
the children was
Tyrone, if she
in the
Tyrone, if
I'm
she
sorry.
goes out and come back in, do you think that'll work? We're having problems hearing you, Latrina. So I'm wondering if you need to go. Tyrone, can you kind of share with her what she might do?
I'm going out.
Yeah, you're going out. We didn't hear you. So Tyree, can you answer that? Can you describe, or Cedric, can you describe a moment when you saw trust at work inside the barbershop? When maybe somebody opened up or
Well, actually me and Tyree experienced it together. People start asking questions and they just get real quiet at first, you know, like Tyree will just lead off randomly and just ask a question about, so how would this make you feel if such and such and such and such, boom, right? And then it's in the atmosphere. Then we'll sit around and look, and everybody just get quiet and start looking at each other. And then next thing you know, he'll just ask individuals, okay, how do you feel about it? Boom. And then next thing you know, after that one person breaks the ice, everybody else will be like, okay, I feel like this, I feel like that. And once a person feels like it's not just them and they're not alone, and once they understand that you feeling the same way that they do, oh, it's all game then. But nobody wants to feel like they're outed. Nobody wants to feel like their feelings are stupid. Nobody wants to feel like how they feel doesn't make any sense. So once they've realized that we all in this together, that's when the sheet comes off, and that's when we can have some real good old talk then.
Have they ever requested any, Tyree, did you want to add to that?
No, I call it. I think that's, exactly, how it goes. And I think just to add to that, just the things that, people feel safe enough to talk about. Like people feel safe enough to talk about things that happened in their childhood that they probably, normally wouldn't talk about. So, even, that is a testament, kind of shows that, you can tell that it's working because people are expressing things that, are really personal and really sacred. So, yeah.
So
let's also let me say this, Ms. Johnson. Let's also take in the point. If you listen to what Tyree and Cedric said, men already go there with a certain level of trust. You heard him say, you don't cheat on your barber. You already got a relationship with that person, with that group of people who are there at that operation. So you come in already with a level of trust. It doesn't have to be earned. So all it takes is like Cedric said, for someone like Tariq to bring something up. And then when you hear another man express it, then you think, oh, hey, I'm going to do the same thing.
Right.
And there's no challenge in expressing that because you're in a place that you came to on your own fruition for the purpose because you trust the person and the environment.
Speaking
now,
of which,
I would say that sometimes you run into situations that may be a bit more adversarial than what we've expressed thus far on the podcast. So Mr. Turner, when you start seeing these guys, whomever, start being a bit more adversarial toward each other, and the topic and the conversation start heating up, do you kind of dial it down in some direction, or how do you go about kind of cooling off the shop?
No, we actually match the gas.
Yeah, I'm just saying.
Every opportunity, you can't wait for the moment for somebody to have a miracle, for somebody to have a miracle or a breakthrough just by talking to you and giving them some information that can help change their life. So we're gonna match the gas to see how far we can go. If they talking, we're gonna get them to keep talking. And it's not no like leveling it off. Because at any given time, nobody's locked in the room. They have the right to walk away from the conversation at any time. But we match the gas to get everything we can to help as much as possible because we all need help in some kind of way, whether we admit it or not.
Yeah.
Wow, that's
I believe that's the key. I believe that's a part of the key.
Yeah, that's
because
powerful.
in so many other spaces, everyone is tuned in to the pressure, and then they back off.
Mhm.
But you put a bunch of men together, hey, it like let's say they can walk out at any time.
Right.
If it gets tough, they can walk out. If they don't walk out, then they want to be there. They want to engage. They may not
That's
know
right.
how to, but they
That's
want
right.
to be there.
Got it.
Have
And
you
That's
all
right.
ever have you ever witnessed someone who was really struggling and you thought that, you're not therapists, right? That you've had to refer them or say, hey, brother, have you thought about going to talk to somebody? I know that, you really got into some really heavy or deep stuff tonight. Have you ever had to do that, or it didn't get on that particular type of level?
I think just generically that's something that we'll throw out. I pretty much remember we had CLT hosted a pretty big event at his shop, and it was outdoors, and we had a lot of different vendors and things come by. And I believe some of those individuals actually were, therapists. But I'm pretty sure at that event, we said, definitely this would be something that you want to consider. But I think even in addition to that, I think that is something that we kind of, recommend for individuals to at least to reach out to as something that is not stigmatized, something that is not, doesn't mean that you're crazy. It's just a way to really to process the things that you've gone through to have a better understanding of it. So yeah, I would say that we do generally recommend that as something that could be helpful.
Yeah, and I know at my barber, the recommendation is it's smooth. It say, well, this is what I did. I've been there. I did that, and this is where I went to get help. And that right there is a lead in. And you'll find that after it's over, he's got his cut and he's come back and say, how do I get in touch with that? How do I get in touch with them? So the way you present it or the way you lay it out there, you can do so without direct confrontation and telling them, hey man, I think you need to do this here. Now, when I was in your situation, or when so-and-so was in that situation, man, he told me he went over to so-and-so, he got the kind of help that he needed. And now he's has a changed attitude.
Wow. Well, this has been good
And the one
discussion,
thing,
and we're going to continue the discussion. If you're just tuning in, we're talking about barbershops, how everyday community spaces build trust and save lives. Tyrone, do you have a mid-show moment that we can? So we're going to let Tyrone show the mid-show moment, and then we'll get back to the discussion. Cedric,
Pause for the truth. Pull up a chair, take a breath, and let's get into it. Today, I'm talking about the emerging impact of the barbershop in the Black community. Why that chair is more than a cut, and why that mirror reflects more than a fresh fade. First off, the barbershop is a safe chair. Real talk, no judgment. It's the one place where topics people tiptoe around, sex, politics, religion, can land on the table without getting thrown out the door. You hear brothers trading stories, asking questions, holding each other accountable. That safe zone matters because when the world says be quiet, the shop says speak up. It's also a classroom. Young cats watch older men navigate life, how to show up, how to disagree respectfully, how to build. I've seen mentorship begin between clippers and conversation, job leads, scholarship tips, fatherhood gems, health advice. That talk can literally change trajectories. Economically, the barbershop is a launch pad, Black-owned, neighborhood-rooted. It keeps money circulating local. Barbers are entrepreneurs. Tech for bookings, mobile services, pop-up collabs, mental health partnerships, and when elections roll around. Shops become civic hubs, voter drives, candidate Q&As. What does this policy mean for us? Let's not gloss over wellness. The chair is therapy without the clipboard. Men open up about stress, relationships, purpose. Some shops partner with counselors and barbers trained to spot warning signs, blood pressure checks, depression screenings, resources by the aftershave. That's community care. Edge up to edge up. Spiritually, it's a fellowship. Scripture is supposed to take prayer punchline. And when it comes to sex, consent, pleasure, masculinity, real grown conversations happen. Not shame, not rumor, truth. Here's the shift. The barbershop isn't waiting for institutions to save us. It's building its own, credible voices, trusted space, consistent presence. The chair gives dignity. The mirror gives reflection. The room gives community. So next time you sit down, look around, you're not just getting a cut. You're entering a circle where honesty is currency and belonging is the dress code. This is Pause for the Truth. Take a seat, tell your story, and listen like it matters, because it does.
Wow, Tyrone, that was powerful. Tyrone does a really good job of connecting the conversation. Cedric, before we went on the break, did you want to add something? Or
Yeah,
no?
I wanted to thank you. Piggyback off of what Tyree was saying, like, once you have to be very careful what space you put yourself in. Like, once you tap into this area of mental, when you tap into a mental of a man and he starts talking and he starts telling you things about his personal life, you better make sure that you're ready to uphold his trust and make sure that what he expresses to you is confidential and that it's not going to be told. He's not going to come back around that rainbow and he hear from Sally Mae or Joe Blow.
Yeah.
See, that's the thing, the trust part. So like almost once that person opens up to you and you tell me, okay, I need you to go talk to somebody else, that's kind of like, I don't know them, I done told you, I ain't never told nobody, but I told you, man, like, come on, man. Like they hungry like a baby when they crying for milk, So when a person opens up to you, you have to make sure that you're in a mental space yourself to be able to handle what a person is about to tell you, because somebody might tell you they're about to kill their wife. And I need somebody to talk me off of this ledge. Somebody might tell you they're abusing their child.
Yeah.
You wanted to know. Okay, so I'm talking about it now. So what you gonna do now? You gonna walk away from me? You gonna judge me? You gonna call the police on me? What? Okay, I'm here now. Now what? You gonna leave me out here in the water to drown or what? So like you in a vulnerable position dealing with mental. That's why the training is necessary.
Wow, that's very powerful.
JT, that's what I was referencing earlier when I said that, when I was mentioning about being able to deal in terms when I was doing psychiatry and stuff like that in medical school, because barbers, they are, de facto counselors to an extent. Okay. And, guys believe in their barber because they may have they feel they may have a connection with them. And, they tell them something in confidence and they want to treat it like they're talking to their psychiatrist or talking to their mental health counselor, and so I expect this to be private in terms of what we talking about. But then the responsibility, the other side of the coin, winds up being, since you mentioned it, Mr. Turner, I want to go and kill my wife. It's like, okay, how do you handle that? What's the level of responsibility in terms of what you should, not from just a legal standpoint, that's not what we're talking about, but from a standpoint that you got to live with whatever the consequences or the serial happenings after that conversation, that if you didn't act upon it, do you need to act upon it? If you feel you need to act upon it, who do you go contact? Who do you talk to? In your case, it might be Mr. Williams, and you might find a way to have a back door into that conversation. But not everybody else has that privilege of being able to connect with someone whom, you know, might be able to give them some directions in terms of how to handle that stuff. I don't know. I responded.
At that point, it goes from a mental thing to a spiritual thing, and that's when if you have any faith in the Most High, that's when you have to really call on Him for guidance and help and strength, because at that point you kind of stuck, you know, like you got to pray, man, and ask God to really, you know, help you, man, because if you don't believe in God, you ain't gonna have no help no way.
Yeah, and Tyree and thank you, Cedric. Tyree and Latrina, that brings me back to you all with TBRI, and that's trust-based relational interventional practitioners. What TBRI tools or trauma-informed principles help engage people in a respectful, safe way? And that's for either of you.
Yes, in our capacity when we okay. In the capacity in barbershops, I always go back to what we've learned. Do not pull the band-aid, the band-aid off and expect them to expose their wound if you don't have any healing salve to to close it up again after you're done asking particular questions. So you're going to have to always give them something that's going to give them the healing to get them out of wherever they are, because it's in this work, I find that it's more of a spiritual growth and development more than anything. Right. And so when you ask certain questions of everyone, you want them to be able to have redos and do-overs. People want choices. They do not want you to tell them what to do. The only thing that we're doing is bumping tables and interrupting patterns within the person. So in a case where someone's speaking about things that because we are mandate reporters. So if they're saying some things in there in our safe space, if it's about a child being hurt, we can't hold it. If it's about an elderly person being hurt, we can't hold it. And that's made clear. But if it's something, like you said, to talk them off the ledge, we have to give them tools. We ask certain questions, especially in relationships. In relationships, you remember yesterday when I bought the card deck, Cedric? I make examples using tools. I bring the card deck, and that card deck is a 52 deck of cards, a regular playing cards. I bring the card in unopened, and I show them that deck of cards represent this. That's what we call our God self, or our belief system. And so whatever that deck holds, that's the one that we're going to for all of our development and growth. Now, when we spread those cards out like a game of match, you can pull from that deck 2 cards. One will represent you, one would represent the person that you're with. Now, if you pull a 7 and a 4, you must know that 7 will can always be the 7. The 4 will always be the 4. It's not going to change. So if that's the case in the game of match, you know that you have 3 more opportunities to find something that's like you. You don't have to fight back and forth with things that's not good for you. So if you're in a relationship and that relationship is not working, know that red flag that you're pushing against, and those are red flags. When you find yourself in relationships that you're having to force yourself to be in, or the other side is fussing and trying to change you, because whoever you are, that's who you are. You can't change from that. So we have decisions to make in relationships. When we find our true match, it should be easy. But if you're in a place that's making you uncomfortable, you have the option, the choice to know that's not the best for you. So we teach them to walk away and know that what their desires are is on the table. It's always out there. That card deck have enough cards in it to match every card out there. But sometimes it comes to you easy, and sometimes you just have to turn it back down and draw again. And you should be all right with that, because that makes you the best version of yourself.
Ms. Donnell, one of the things I'm hearing, I understand what you're saying, and as a healthcare professional, I can probably deal with it. But what we are looking at is, if I'm in Mr. Turner's position, okay, the card system dealing with that on site is a lot more complicated than what the conversation with your clients in terms of him being in the barbershop. A lot more conversation than what he may be able to do or want to deal with. You know, that's his choice on that, along that line. But I get what I'm trying to get is something that what can barbers who do not have the connection that maybe Mr. Turner does, how do they handle everyday situations in which they encounter the descriptions of characters that or personalities that Mr. Turner alluded to earlier? You know, when he hears someone talks about suicidal, homicidal tendencies, when he hears someone talk about, you know, how depressed they are in terms of how to deal with thus forth, you know, unless you're well trained in that card system, because as you were talking just now, I have no clue what you were referencing, to be honest with you, because I've never been exposed to that card system. Not saying that it wouldn't be that difficult to matriculate, but again, when we're talking to barbers, they got a timeline. They, in terms of which they trying to earn their money, but at the same time, they trying to be, you know, some of them, like Mr. Turner, may be really trying to be involved in the community and the community well-being. Others, they got to look at that, what barbershop open, but at the same time, what's the most efficient way? And I'm not answering the question. I'm just posing questions of circumstance. What's the best way to handle situations like that without being too intrusive of that barber, or be quite frank with you, the client as well? Some mutual point of understanding.
My recommendation is that anytime there is something that comes up that you can't handle, you have to give it to a professional. That 988, have them call 988. Someone is available immediately for you to get someone on there to talk them down, and they'll stay on the line with them, especially if something about suicide, you know, suicide or hurting someone. So it's always the recommendation for you to get them to the professionals when you're not able to, you know, have these conversations back and forth. Whenever you feel that someone is going to hurt themselves, I recommend you get them on the line with someone that the professionals that can help them. Because what we're doing is we're bringing awareness to mental health. We're also trying to help, you know, with tools for everyday, day-to-day living. But when it's something very, you know, something that needs immediate care and attention, I would give a referral to, you know, mental health professionals.
Yeah, Tyree, let me ask you a question. What do people misunderstand most about trauma and its impact on health?
I would say what people, and then really quick, what we were just talking about just now, I think what Dr. Kane was saying, it really speaks to the need of more awareness around, you know, what are the outlets for individuals going through significant, not just mental health problems, but just things that affect their mental. Because, you know, you may not consider yourself as having mental health issues, but we all deal with things that are really difficult for us to cope with. And the definition of trauma is just being at your wit's end of knowing how to cope with a problem. And we've all been there. We've all had problems where we just didn't know how to cope with it. But I would say, as far as trauma goes, I think it's a saying in TBRI, I think it's TBRI, but it says, you know, what happens in childhood doesn't stay in childhood. So I think a lot of people think the things that happen to them in childhood, that happened to them in childhood and it's not affecting them today. But I think that's probably the biggest misconception, is that the things that happen to you in childhood really shape the way that you see relationships. It shapes the way that you see other people. It shapes the way of how much you trust individuals, how much you trust yourself, how confident you are. It's just so many ways that your upbringing and the things that you may have experienced in childhood affects you to the day of your adulthood, unless you have addressed those issues and become aware of how those things actually impact you on the day-to-day. So that's what I would say.
Do you also hear, and this is for any of you, do you hear men talk about they don't want to treat their children the way they may have been treated as a child? Does that ever come up? And how do they get through that, or how do they deal with that? Is TBRI and the hubs that you all have established at Cedric's Barbershop, is that helping them to work through that trauma, to be better or different dads than they had growing up? Anybody?
But
Cedric,
TBRI teaches to see the need
Cedric, you on
behind the
mute.
behavior.
I know Cedric, me and PLP
Hey,
done talked about that before
Oh,
too.
you-
I know he was about to say something.
Oh, I think a lot of it at the end of the day, we can like try to pacify it, or we can try to make it sound sweet. You have to take accountability, man. You can't just keep running into the pity party in circles and circles. Oh, somebody hug me. Oh. You have to face what you're running from and you're hurt from. It's not about the patting on the back. You're gonna be okay. Talk to this person. Take accountability of what you're doing, man, and learn how to get away from it. Look at it in the face like you do the mirror every day. Face it. That's the only way you're gonna move forward 100%. Everything else is just gonna it's gonna keep itching. It's gonna keep itching. Take accountability of the things that you're doing. My granny always said you can't control nothing what nobody else do, but you can control what you do.
Yep, that's true.
You control what you do. If you decide, oh, I don't want to deal with this today, oh, I don't want to deal with that today, you keep throwing it to the side. Take accountability that you're throwing it to the side. Take accountability that it's building up because you're not dealing with it. Because why? You don't know how. But when you speak to the right person, like Latrina or Tyree, they can just open up your mind. And that's where that's where the healing comes. When you're allowed to be exposed, you be like, dang, I didn't even know that. That's why I be acting like this, because I'm triggered from something that I kept running from, but I didn't want to take accountability for it. A lot of the times it's the person, it's yourself. It ain't what you went through, it's you. Deal with it. You have to. That's the only way for freedom. There's no other way.
Wow. So you all have been doing some good stuff together.
And also recognizing the need behind. Yes.
Go ahead,
Latrina. Go ahead, Latrina.
No, I was saying, if you see the need behind the behavior, to see the need behind the behavior, especially when it comes to children, like a father may take the child from home and bring them up to the barbershop, for instance, and don't feed the child. You know, you wake up early in the morning, we're going to get a haircut. You didn't give him food. You didn't give him anything, any water, anything to drink. So while you're getting your haircut and the child start moving around too much in the barbershop and you want to get up and discipline him, but you didn't ask what's wrong. The child can't articulate it, but what's wrong, what we found is that the child is hungry or wants something to drink. So it can be something as simple as us bringing food to the barbershop and offering it to the children. And as soon as they get that, breakfast sandwich or whatever, they're sitting down quietly. But the parent didn't even, investigate what was wrong or what steps were missed during the dance of getting up in the morning. And, sometimes it's just us rushing and we forget about the need of our children. And it's just every day-to-day life. And we don't talk to the children as if they have choices as well. We just tell them what to do without helping them with negotiations.
Wow. Have any of the barbers, the clients,
they don't learn those skills, how to negotiate their needs?
And thank you, Latrina. Have any of your clients asked you all to talk about things that you have not talked about, or maybe it's just some things, you've dealt with mental health, but have they asked, say, can we get some blood pressure screenings, or can we get some other resources in here? And for our audience who's listening, what resources or partnerships would it take to make the biggest difference in the work, Latrina, and all of you that you're doing for the community to expand this work?
I really believe that if we had a doctor or someone come in and help the guys with their, like you said, the blood pressure checks and things like that. We all know that it's a little, they have to be sometimes down before they go into the doctor's office to get their appointment. So that would really be, on the boots on the ground level, to see a doctor that they could trust and talk to, and also to be able, especially like prostate cancer questions and questions about just men's health in general, to have someone that look like them and talk on the same level that they're speaking on. Little things like that help men to be able to emotionally connect with other people, because a lot of times we see that is the biggest issue, is the men may not be emotionally available. And that could come from patterns from childhood as well, with single parent, raising them. And so those are some of the trends that we've seen in the barbershop as it relates to men, is being able to connect with someone and being able to trust who they're speaking with. But it takes time for you to come in and do what you say you're going to do. And if something changes, I always call the barbershop, let them know, if you're not going to be there, because trust is hard to gain, especially when you've been rejected and abandoned and dismissed as a child, and that pattern has come out in your adult life. So, we're trying to help them to reestablish the cycles by being consistent.
Yeah.
Well,
I would, go ahead.
Go ahead, Mr. Williams. Go ahead.
And I would say also, because y'all ain't giving me a chance to answer the question of how I got into this work. So it's going to be full circle. It's going to be quick. But look, I really got into this work just looking back of a way to really heal myself. So I started out as a dietitian. I was like overweight. So I wanted to be at a healthier weight. I didn't want to get sick. So I went into that profession in order to not only heal myself, but also to be able to give back to help somebody else as well. Then I learned about mental health, and I was like, really the mind even directs your physical health. So if you are able to control your mental health, then you will be a lot more equipped to control your physical health. Then you have financial health. So I think one thing that we've realized as well is at a lot of the barbershops, and it was a point in time where we kind of saw each barbershop kind of had like a personality. So this barbershop might be the barbershop where a lot of people were interested in entrepreneurship. This barber and wanting to learn more about financial literacy. This barbershop may be more interested in physical health. So they want to know about, physical health, from pharmaceutical, medical, to all the way to like herbal and, natural ways to become more physically healthy. This barbershop might be more focused on, how do I have a healthy family or a healthy relationship with my family? So I think, when you think about health, men's health, barbershops, I think it's really about how do we heal ourselves? And that is financial, that's spiritual, that's physical, that's mental. So I think all of those different things kind of come up in the barbershop as to these are things that we want to talk about. And if we can bring individuals who really can help meet those needs, I think there are needs for all those different things.
What it sounds like, I'll be quite frank with you. You guys talk about bringing in medical professionals, health professionals, in terms of educating people on this, that, or the other. Ms. Turner, you can relate to this because you and I worked in this program together, in which we tried to come approach multiple barbershop, various barbershop, in which we tried to teach them about prostate cancer, high blood pressure, diabetes. We were, because there's so many barbershops, we couldn't go to all the barbershops. So what we were trying to do, and the program we tried to put together was bring those leaders in the barbershop to us to educate them to a certain level of education about particular subject matters, prostate cancer, high blood pressure, diabetes, yada, 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 so that they can raise those conversations and discuss it with their clientele, because that made it a lot more available to the community. You know, I can only visit so many barbershops a month if I decide to go there, and then the only people I'll see are those one that are there that day. And it may be other, there's other times where, different people that were not there the day that I was there to hear that conversation. So we really wanted to educate the barbers in terms of how to deal with these situations, how to deal with prostate, discussion on prostate, how to deal with the discussion on diabetes. And even more recently, when we started thinking about the politics of medicine, which is one of our viewers brought up, which is the politics involved in medicine, promoting, banned books in barbershop, because those things help us realize, discuss with our community who we are, our history, because that plays an important role in terms of the trauma that we've experienced as a group of people since we talked about trauma. So the bottom line is, what we need, based on what you guys have been saying, is a program that's more comprehensive, going back to that old program Ms. Turner and I tried to do, what maybe 15 years ago, Ms. Turner, or so, that we tried to do in terms of educating the barbers to be able to go out and have those discussions about those particular healthcare topics. I know that tonight we focused a lot on mental health, but and we can talk about that. Tyree, that might be more in your area of expertise, but to go to each individual barbershop is a lot more difficult or a lot less productive than if we train the barber, which is what we call the program, train the barber, correct? Correct me if I'm mistaken, Ms. Turner. That's what we call the program. Train the barber.
I don't remember, but it was something similar for sure.
Something similar to that. Train the barber to have those conversations to the baseline, and then if they wanted to have us come out, we would come out in specific audience, and so on and so on. So it's a community effort that I'm trying to promote or discuss right now, whereby if we can get barbers to come in, I'd be more than willing to sit back and train them on specific subject matter to the best of my degree, and then allow them to go back and discuss it with their patrons.
Well, guess what, ladies and gentlemen, we're at the end of the show. Yeah, we're at the end. We don't want to keep you any longer than we asked for. At the end, we always like to give our guests rather, an opportunity to share their final thoughts. So at this point, in your final thoughts, I would like for you to answer this question: what gives you hope in this work? So I will start with Latrina. Your final thoughts regarding tonight's topic, and then also include a comment on what gives you hope in this work.
Okay, thank you. And thank you for inviting us in on this topic. It's such an important matter, especially dear to me and in the community. What gives me hope about the work that we're doing is the awareness that I'm seeing within the men in our community. We are working in 32209, but also outside of that. But that is where the majority of our culture and our, environment, with underserved environments are. So it is really nice to see that the crime rate has dropped by 70% in this particular area. And it's been high for over 20 years. So that's something to be proud of, that whatever the work that we're doing collaboratively, boots on the ground, we're making a difference in our community. And it's also great to see that the men in the community are open and available to becoming the best version of themselves. That's what we put on the table. That's what the best option is, because this work that we're doing does not only help community. Every time I go out, I'm becoming the best version of myself, because this work is really me working on how to become a better me by understanding others around me. And so it gives me great hope that everybody around me is doing the same thing, especially when they open up their doors to us. That lets me know that somebody's ready. And I always said to myself, when I go in there, I always say, like Denzel Washington says, I'm leaving here with something, And so it feels good to leave with something every time I go in. I hear beautiful stories in barbershop, and I can see the changes in the faces of the men in our community.
That's awesome, Latrina. Thank you so much. Cedric, what about you? What are your final thoughts regarding tonight's topic, and what gives you hope in the work that you've been doing?
Just to be honest with you, like the hope I have is all spiritual. It's all spiritual. It's all truthful. I have to hope. I'm hoping that the Most High is in control and He's using me and everybody that I'm connected to be effective for His cause and for us to become better people. Knowing thyself first is the most effective way for you to help someone else. Because if you don't know yourself, you're giving people false hope because you're not speaking from experience. You're speaking from something you read or what somebody told you. But when you know for a fact for yourself and for the truth of yourself is the way you become effective to help someone. People see and can feel most of the time when you're being honest and when you're really trying to help them and when you're not. So I just hope that the Most High is constructing all of this, putting all of us together to become effective for the people. Because you'll be so surprised of when people get relief from what they've been dealing with. The change inside of them is amazing. They release the anger. You see a bright person inside them that they didn't even think was in them. So just having the release of their demons is like the biggest thing. So I'm looking forward. I'm hoping that God is in control of this and He's just helping all of us that believe and seek Him. So that's what I'm hoping for.
I'll tell you what, that was a little sermonette, Cedric. Thank you. Appreciate it. And Tyree, what are your final thoughts and what gives you hope in this work?
Yeah, I think I definitely piggyback off CLT. Like just the belief of the goodness of God and the resilience of human nature. I think a lot of times we look at problems as opposed to looking at them from a mindset of, these are challenges, and the only way you grow is through challenges. If life was comfortable, you would be stagnant, you would be stuck, you would never have a reason to grow. So a lot of times we look at, challenges, we look at dark things as, bad, but they're not bad. They're opportunities to grow. And everybody grows at different rates, at different paths. But I think it's like a saying that goes, easy times make, soft people, but hard times make tough people. Like we grow and we learn from challenges. So, and I believe in the goodness of God and the resilience of humans. So, I think, it's a blessing to be able to, see at one point, you're going through this challenge and then you've overcome that challenge, you overcome that test, and you learn the lesson and you're able to go forward, because life is not devoid of challenges. Life is not devoid of issues. Everybody has challenges. Everybody has issues. So I think, just that understanding that life is for growth and it's not for, destruction. So.
Wow. I tell you what, you all are really putting some powerful nuggets out. Tyrone, do you have any final thoughts regarding tonight's discussion?
Of course I do. But first of all, I'd like to thank our guests. It's been a very awesome discussion. The conversation is obviously something that all three of you have passion and work in the field. So we thank you for coming on. I did want to comment though on what gives me hope. I'm not a barber. I go to a barber like most men, but here's the thing that I think gets missed sometimes. This conversation that's going on in barbers, it is not new. But we've been doing this for a long time. The fact that we now have professionals partnering with them to get the quality of care is where I see the biggest hope. So the conversation men have been having at barbers go back way before any of us who are on this call. And so that's the beautiful thing. So once again, I want to thank each of our guests for being on and just giving us awesome information and a very spiritual podcast.
Thank you. Dr. Kane, what are your final thoughts?
Did we talk to Miss Down?
Yes,
Yep.
we did.
Oh, sorry. I missed that. All right, so here's my thoughts. As a clinician, I look at every opportunity in terms of trying to educate our community. Whether it's about mental health or physical health, which you really cannot separate the two, be quite frank with you. So you need to be we would like to have the best of both circumstances in which we talk about what's going on physically with our community. So when I'm in the barbershop, we talk about prostate cancer, we talk about diabetes, we talk about high blood pressure, and so on and so on. But also mentally, which has been neglected many times throughout the years, and people try to avoid the conversation. But I also like to hear about that as well, because again, they mesh within each other that it's very difficult to separate the two. So I think the barbershop represents an opportunity to bring those two together in terms of discussion within the community, a greater opportunity. I might do it in my practice, but there's a lot of times that's one-on-one. Here we have an opportunity to when it comes to barbershop, to have that discussion in front of a group of people. Unlike social media, which can talk about that in a much more vast number of people, the barbershop makes it a lot more personal, okay, in which they can relate to people like themselves, whether it's somebody who has prostate cancer or prostate issue, whether or not it's like someone who has depression issues, and so on and so on. So we need to take advantage of every avenue we can to help heal our community or put our community in the best health that we can with the resources for which we have. And the barbershop is such an important, a very respected resource that we have not utilized fully to help with the health in the African American community.
Thank you, Dr. Kane. And as Tyrone and Dr. Kane both said, thank you so much to our guests. And thank you all for joining us for this powerful conversation on Pause for the Truth. Today's discussion reminded us that healing doesn't always start in a clinic or a hospital. Sometimes it begins in the most familiar places, right in the barbershop, where trust is currency and community is built one conversation at a time. To our guests, again, thank you for your wisdom, your lived experiences, and your commitment to meeting people exactly where they are, whether it's through a TBRI-informed approach, the hands-on work of community health advocates, or the everyday influence of a trusted barber. You each showed us how simple human connection can change and even save lives. We hope today encourages our listeners to look at barbershops and other neighborhood spaces with new eyes. These are more than places to get a cut. They're anchors of safety, belonging, and hope. If you're inspired by what you heard today, we invite you to support the barbershop. We're calling them health hubs movement in your own community. Start a conversation, check on a friend, learn your numbers, or simply show up with compassion. This is how we build healthier families, stronger neighborhoods, and a more resilient Jacksonville. I'm your host, Jocelyn Turner, along with Dr. Rogers Kane and Tyrone Jackson. Thank you for listening. Until next time, pause, breathe, and take care of one another. Good evening.
We appreciate you spending time with us on Pause for the Truth. Ms. Jocelyn Turner and Dr. Rogers Kane are grateful for your support. Don't forget to like us on Facebook, catch us live on Twitch, and most importantly, subscribe on YouTube. A big shout out to Tyrone Jackson at Call Tyrone IT Services for keeping us connected. Join us every Tuesday at 6:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time for more enlightening discussions. Thanks, and see you next week.